Last episode, we created a scaling smeltery in preparation for our mega factory, but having built it, we have a major problem, a huge power deficit. Now, if this were to turn on all at once, we'd be screwed. We wouldn't be able to run this. So today, I'm going to overclock our oil nodes here on the Gold Coast so that we can increase our power generation by over 40,000 megawatts in a single crude oil pipe by using several alternate recipes. And on top of that, we've made the move to experimental, which means we'll also have to consider lighting. But as long as it's bright, we can work without too many issues. We'll just have to skip the night where possible. So now that we have a total of 1,800 crude oil being produced, we're going to make sure that we're still sending 1,200 crude oil to this facility here for plastic and rubber. The other 600 is going to split off at that point over there and head to the fuel facility that we're going to build today. However, for that we need to dedicate a space alongside that train station there. So we'll have a dedicated diluted packaged fuel factory over in this section to the left of the track, which will then go across to another fuel plant to burn it off. But now that it's getting dark, we're going to skip ahead to where I've built the foundations out. And like that, it's a new dawn and a new day. You can see we've already got started with the first part of the facility. I've also built a train station just to the left of it. And this is going to be receiving iron ingots and copper ingots for producing the empty canisters. I don't think I've actually unlocked the alternate recipe for that. Yeah, let's just check. Yeah, so we're looking for an iron and copper one. So I will be researching that. But once we've got that, they will run straight to constructors to be produced into the, I think it's plates and sheets. And then from there, they will go to the assemblers. I've also now got the Mark II pipe of crude oil coming along, and that is feeding under here. We've actually got started on building the facility, but this is running all the way through here. I need to add lights. Oh, goodness me. Not that that helps much. And then it's feeding up into the fluid buffers above here. From here, now that we've made sure with these valves that the crude oil isn't flowing back down, I've added a pump here which is going to pump the crude oil all the way along a line here with all of these refineries. We need, I think it's a total of 20, but these are all going to be the heavy oil residue alternate recipe. And that's to allow us to get the most out of the heavy oil residue, because we're going to need that for the diluted packaged fuel. Speaking of which, if you are interested in seeing layouts for these, I do have a guide on the best fuel alternates and also turbo fuel. I'll put links to them throughout the video for you. But we are going to run this pipeline all the way across to here. Make sure it's in line. And in order to get these in the right position, rather than guessing, I'm going to place our pipeline junction just in front, and then we're going to hold control. You see this snaps it in place so it's in the exact position. And from here we can use the Mark I pipe to feed the oil in, and we're also going to paint that black so that we know it's crude oil. The other thing I should mention is we've got the water extractor plant that's going to bring in all the water for the diluted packaged fuel, and they're being brought to here. We've also lifted this up. You've probably noticed a good, I think it's 6 meters. And that means that we're going to have the majority of the production above, if it's the refineries, for example, and then we can have the constructors below, and they're just going to be popping their heads above the ground. Speaking of residual plastic or rubber, I've set them up. They're going to be fed by the water from this industrial fluid buffer. We're going to run it under the floor, and then these are going to feed into the refineries. Should be a pretty clean setup. Along with the water, we're going to need the polymer resin from the refineries over there, which I've now placed fully. And you can see that the output is running across the top here so that we can see it. And then down and along to the refineries here. Oh, and speaking of the refineries, I've also decorated them. Playing around with lumen, we've got these signs just on the ceiling there as strip lighting, and then a walkway across the top. And I'm really happy with how this looks, even inside as well. So you can probably expect to see more of this in future builds. The next thing that I need to do is have a fuel refinery setup in front of the heavy oil refineries there. We're also going to need iron and copper constructors, and then a assembler section here for the empty canisters. And following that, we will have a packager plant over here for the water. That will then take the water all the way back over to the diluted fuel refineries, where they'll be unpackaged and we'll have however much fuel available. And here we have the facilities. So we have the packagers first, followed by the assemblers for the empty canisters, then the residual refineries on the left, and in front, the iron and the copper lines for those empty canisters. And the idea is that this bus is going to take all of the full water or packaged water across to these refineries, which are going to be producing the diluted packaged fuel. From there, they're going to head out into this location where we're going to unpackage the packaged fuel to be sent to the fuel facility to be burnt off. Looking at the factory area, I'm just loving how the light is coming down and hitting these refineries, but I've noticed it's really dark underneath. So we started to add some lighting on both sides, and it looks good, but it's not quite bright enough. So what I've actually started doing, and you can probably expect a video on this sooner rather than later, is create some easy to build sign blueprints for lighting. So here we have this one that we can just place above our factory. This is a bug at the moment with update 8. So if you're wondering why the signs aren't lit up, you just need to click them and then they'll be fine. Or you can just reload the save. And there you go, you have a lighting. Perhaps it's a bit too strong here, but we are going to add more lighting and also fill in this segment here. By the way, if you are wondering why we're skipping ahead quite a bit today, it's because this project is over 60 hours in the making. So I'm trying to go as quickly and showing you all the little bits that we've done. This particular section is the unpackages. They're going to take the fuel, the packaged fuel even, from here into these and then pump them out into this lovely line over here. It's quite a lot of fuel. I mean, it's 600 crude oil that has been transformed into 1,500 fuel. That's quite a lot. In fact, we can do the maths right now. If we just press N, we do 1,500, which is the fuel that we have. We divide it by, oh goodness me, what is it for fuel? Is a fuel generator 12? So that's 125 fuel generators, and then we times that by the fuel. That is 18,750 megawatts worth of power. Not bad, but we can do a lot better. So at this point, we're using two alternative recipes. We're using the heavy oil residue alternate recipe, which is giving us the heavy oil residue that we need for the second alternate recipe, which is the diluted packaged fuel recipe. However, we can push the diluted fuel even further and get more bang for our buck, and that is with the MAM. So if we check in here now, we do have under sulfur, if you research this first experimental power generation research, you can unlock compacted coal with a hard drive, sulfur and coal, and you can also unlock turbo fuel. And if we partner the turbo fuel with the diluted packaged fuel, it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
And you can see I've already dedicated the space for the turbo fuel here. This is going to cover the compacted coal, the turbo fuel production, and also the packaging of turbo fuel, because we are going to have to transport it elsewhere. And though I love using trains, fluid trains, unlike this one here, aren't that efficient when it comes to transportation. So we're going to package the turbo fuel and then transport it via one of these instead. As for why I've built in this shape, I really have no idea. I know I'm going to regret this, but hey, we'll live and learn. Well, we'll probably live, but probably not learn from it. The first thing that we're going to have to do in this area is the compacted coal line. So for this, we're going to need the assemblers to take in the coal and the sulfur from the surrounding area and produce compacted coal. I've decided, having just done this line, that the best way to do this would be with a very basic blueprint. So it's just 3 assemblers and the manifold, and I'm just going to grab it here and we're going to place it just in line. Wow, I love the use of nudging. That is so helpful. And from here, we can set it to blueprint and just snap it. That's so much easier. The only thing is, that's perfect. Once we connect these up with Mark IV belts, is we're going to need to do another line above us because we need a total of 40 assemblers for this section. I've now set this all up, so it should work once we turn it all on. However, it definitely needs some TLC. We want to add some decoration eventually. We're not going to do that in this video because there just isn't enough time. You're all going to get bored of my dreary voice. But you can see we've also added all of our turbo fuel refineries and a train station to bring the sulfur and the coal. Now, this is a little bit of a pain because we've had to bring sulfur from 3 different areas and then all the coal from the estuary. I'll quickly show them in a moment. But hopefully, between these 2 sets of refineries, we should have enough to run a total of 1,200 turbo fuel per minute. There is one problem, of course, and that problem is, as you can see, we are running out of power. Obviously, we've built this plant so that we can produce power, but you can see we've surpassed our production max capacity. So the consumption at the moment is 9,300 roughly, and we're producing about 8,000, give or take a few hundred, and so we're running out of power quite quickly, and that's without even turning on the turbo plant. But we have got a load of packaged fuel. So the idea now is going to be to set up some generators just very temporarily so that we can get the turbo fuel plant running so that they can fill up the packages, which we're going to place here shortly, so that when we do build the power facility, we'll be able to turn it on straight away. Crisis averted. Now let's go check out the new train stations. The first new train station that I've built is in the estuary. It's collecting all of the coal from here as well as all of the sulfur over there. And you'll notice that we have a bus right here. I'm actually really happy with this bus. It is a blueprint that we've created and then we've just mirrored it across the lake here. One thing that I will mention, if we just go here, you'll notice that it's quite stuttery gameplay. I don't know why that is. I think this particular area at the moment, so the estuary and into the northern forest, just seems to be very unoptimized with update 8. So just be aware of that if you are jumping into this area and building your factories. We've also transported power, as you can see, via the pylons, which go all the way to collect the sulfur. Inside this bus, we do have signs throughout, which are just lighting up the floor. And we also have space for another 2 lines, but I don't think we'll be using them anytime soon. And it's really simple. It's a foundation, and then we have a frame wall either side, followed by a roof. And then we've used beams across the edge so that we can place the signs, and then added 2 white walls. And underneath, you can see we've got a inverted ramp followed by a framed pillar and then another one. And just for a little bit of extra detail, we've got a pillar in the middle with beams in the corners on the outside. Just very simple, but in my opinion, very smart. The other train station that we have, or the first of the next 2 train stations, I should actually say, is this one. It's collecting the sulfur just next to the lagoon where we have our coal power plants from one of the previous Let's Play episodes. I'll put that up now in case you want to check it out, because we quadrupled our power with coal, which was pretty cool. That's collecting all of the sulfur down there and taking that back to the turbo fuel plant. And the other one, you can see it just coming into view now. It's behind the heavy modular frame factory that we built. It's not a pretty train station. It's just collecting the resources. I do need to find time to beautify this whole world because it's looking a bit sparse, but you can see that train's taking the resources to the turbo fuel plant. But with those train stations out the way, let's head back to the turbo fuel plant to sort out those packages. Of course, if we are doing our packages, then we're going to have to do them as a blueprint. You can see we've done a very basic setup here. We have the manifold leading the empty canisters and also the turbo fuel into the packager, where it comes out as packaged turbo fuel. But we're going to spice this up just a little bit. We're going to start off with having walls along the outer section. We'll also add the metal beams, and then every now and then we're going to add just these iron beams facing upwards. And then at this point we can add some signs to light up this area, and I don't know what color will do the signs. I'll think about that in a little bit. But this side we want to do a similar system. It's not quite what I envisioned. I'm going to play around with it a little bit more, but the important thing is once we've got the idea for the design, that we make sure that these are all set for turbo fuel and ready to be placed. Of course, I will make this blueprint available to my patrons as well if you do want it yourself. I made an executive decision. We got rid of the extra supports on this side, and then I also lowered the metal ones into one another so that they're on the same line as the concrete pillars above, and I just think it looks a lot more cleaner. So with that now done, we're going to head over to the turbo fuel plant and get these placed. And so here we are, we're placing down our packages. I'm just doing the last row currently. There we are. We need to make all the connections, but you'll notice if we jump up here, this is the area where the fuel gens were. We've got a few still running just to keep us on the edge. You can see we're teetering on the edge. It's going up and down. However, when we're using up this fuel in the turbo fuel refineries, we're going to tear all of these down, which means we're going to have a deficit again, which gives us the whole of next episode, however much we have available in battery power to set up the fuel plant. So I'm a little bit nervous. Should also mention we've added 2 more lights to this. So along with the outer ones, we have 2 inner ones that just make the inside light up. It'll look better from above, but I also wanted to add a coated floor along here because I can just imagine the red lights looking really nice. It's all about the lighting. I'm going to be playing around with this for the rest of the season. In fact, I'm never going to stop. But anyway, I'm going to connect these all up, hopefully get this running, and then we can start thinking about what we're going to do, where we're going to place the next train station, which is going to take that turbo fuel all the way to the generators. And here we go. We have removed the generators. We've added all of the pipes for the turbo fuel, which you can see via the red there. And they're heading to the packages, which are then being sent across to the train station. Unfortunately, we're actually into the world edge, so I've had to just make do with the belting here. This will change later on once we have pack utility available, mods available for update 8. I will be able to change that, but as it stands, I can't without dying, so we're just going to pretend that it's fixed and it's fine. But we are now ready to turn this on, and to do that we're going to have to use our first ever priority power switch, which is down there. So give me 2 moments.
A few moments later.
And whilst we're here, I did also want to mention we did build a little train freight stop here, and the reason for that is I have a couple of personal trains that bring resources in for whatever reason, but I like that we've got that there. It just adds a little bit of a nice little touch. Anyway, it's time to turn this on. This whole thing has been off, and you can see it's been using up power, but we're just going to go with it. Let's see what happens. Okay, system's running. The first things to turn on are the constructors, the iron and the copper that we need in order to create the empty canisters, which you can see here. They're running across and then fed into a conveyor line which leads to this section, but this is fully saturated, so the excess are being sent towards the sink and then overflown to the packages, where they're now starting to produce packaged turbo fuel. And that's just the start, because with this turbo fuel plant fully operational now, we're going to be producing As mentioned before, 1,200 turbo fuel per minute. So that's all being sent across to here, and it's just taking a little bit of time, but it will be fully up and running shortly. Whilst we're waiting for it to fully turn on though, I must admit I'm loving this view with the belts there and the pipes. We haven't really done industrial style builds before prior to the oil rig, of course, but I'm really liking how this is looking. And though we still have plenty of work to do with Lumen, I am liking the little start to decoration that we've done. From the packages under lighting to our water elevator here. Even the constructor area looks pretty cool at night. And my favorite bit is probably this, where we're just lighting up the items that are coming through. And here we are with the lines filling up. I don't know why that line isn't filling up though. I'm gonna have to check on that. But regardless, we have the turbo fuel heading to the train station, which means in the next episode, we can get started on a turbo fuel plant, which is definitely a necessity at this point because we only have 32 minutes worth of power. Will we make it? But guys, we are going to leave it there. If you did like this video, please do hit the thumbs up. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. And why not check my guide on lighting with Lumen next. But as always, special thanks does go to all of our amazing supporters on Patreon, most notably our Solo Clips patrons, James Owen, Firefless, and Trebor, as well as our Lunas, the Calamity, Ben, Star, Shoku, the Emin Wolf, and that Dude AW, as well as our Blood Moon of the day, which today is Adam the Useless. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.